This is Lake Effect on 89.7 WUWM. I'm Joy Powers, and it's time now for our monthly segment on entrepreneurship.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Gallagher, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and the executive director of Five Lakes Institute. And this is How Did You Do That? A show about successful entrepreneurs and how and why they succeeded.
We have the same resources as big corporations, but we're very focused, one company at a time. And that model is a model for the future of how you innovate science.
Jeff Aronin realized early in his career that big pharmaceutical companies weren't set up to develop drugs for small numbers of patients with rare conditions. So he began focusing on addressing that problem. Aronin started Ovation Pharmaceuticals in 2000, grew it to nearly 300 employees, and sold it to Denmark-based Lundbeck in 2009 for $900 million. He has since launched Paragon Biosciences, which develops, accelerates, and finances biotech companies, and as a philanthropic endeavor, founded Matter, Chicago's premier center for health technology startups. Jeff, welcome to How Did You Do That?
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. Let's just dive in. You grew up in Baltimore and moved to Illinois during high school. After graduating from Northern Illinois University, you got a sales and marketing job at Carter Wallace Pharmaceuticals. You were very upset when the company launched a therapy for pediatric epilepsy that helped many families, then pulled that drug off the market when a side effect was discovered. How did that experience shape your career?
That actually made a big impact in my career because I got into the industry because I saw I could build a career, but also help patients. And when I realized that if products weren't large enough, they weren't important to these big corporations. And I saw I had a unique ability to solve this problem and decided I wanted to focus on it.
You worked in other jobs in the healthcare industry, including a stint at MedCare Technologies, a medical equipment maker, where actually you learned about innovation. So at age 29, you stopped working for other people and holed up in your living room to launch Ovation Pharmaceuticals with $150 million of private equity funding. How did you land the funding, particularly since you didn't have an initial product?
Well, I had been CEO of other companies, and I realized I had the skills. I knew how to build companies. I knew how to run them. But what I really wanted to focus on is what we just talked about, which was there were diseases that weren't large enough to meet the hurdle for big corporations, which were merging, to focus on. So these diseases I focused on, and we were remarkably successful in getting a lot of products approved in these areas. I, shared my mission. I, first of all, took a lot of risk, put all my capital in. Personally, I hired great people who took chance on me. And then I found a private equity partner who took a big chance on me and invested $150 million to go make this happen. So it was very mission-based, but also it made sense to the partner because they saw there was a big need out there.
You, in other words, decided to go after the hard stuff, huh?
Yeah, it's just as hard to get a medicine approved for a small category, a small disease, as it is a big disease. So we needed to build the entire infrastructure of a large pharma company, but be very targeted in these areas. And we were really one of the first to ever do this. And, we had a lot of success, and, fortunately now others have gone into these areas over the years.
I think you must have a real ability to talk people into things.
Well, the most important thing when you build, now I've built a lot of companies, is getting great partners and finding good employees. Fortunately, here in the Midwest, we had a lot of trained people at Abbott, Baxter, and all the other, and we had great researchers at great universities. So we were able to really build a terrific team.
Well, you've overseen the very difficult process of getting FDA approvals for new drugs and FDA clearance for artificial intelligence-driven technology. You must be doing something right. How do you know when you've landed on the right problem and you should proceed with it?
Well, one of the hardest things to do in any industry is get a medicine approved, because you have to do things really well without mistakes for a very long period of time. And there's a lot of different elements involved. So the most important is finding an unmet need that is very important, which is usually a disease that needs a treatment. There's 6,000 diseases out there today that have no treatments. That is what drives us. Then you find the science that can solve that problem. And then you got to execute really well for a very long period of time. And we've been able to do that. And of course, you need capital, you need a great team, you need all the elements that go into it. But you start with the mission and you start with good science. And that's what we've been able to do.
So with your first two startups, you faced criticism largely around pricing for therapies that you delivered to very small populations. Tell us about the challenges involved and what you learned from those early experiences.
Well, we're in a very complex industry, and it's confusing to navigate and confusing to understand for a lot of people, but we have had a lot of success. We've built 10 companies, gotten record numbers of drugs approved, helped hundreds of thousands, if not millions of patients. And we continue to do more. As you do that, you have a lot of success, but you also, learn along the way. We were very fortunate that we did have that experience. It helped us learn that we needed to listen to patient groups. Even when they may not be right about everything, we needed to spend the time and understand and help them understand. So it was a great motivator for us as we've built new companies, and we've incorporated that into what we're doing in the future and all of our future companies. So it really was a great success at those companies, but it helped us become better in the future. So we're grateful for that.
You clearly have a lot of energy and don't let up. After these early successes, you started Paragon Biosciences. There you've built 7 innovative bio-based companies and invested more than $1 billion into them. Your model has you incubating, launching multiple companies relatively quickly. A lot of people struggle to get one company off the ground, but you recently launched 2 in 1 year. How does this model work and how do you do it?
First of all, one of my big beliefs is it's very difficult for big industry to innovate. That's just the reality. Where a lot of innovation comes from is smaller biotech, smaller companies. And that's always been a driver for me. We have been very good at finding challenges and solving them with science. And what we learned was, because the industry is so complex and science is complex, we do it in very targeted companies and focus on one big problem at a time. And we have the same resources as big corporations, but we're very focused, one company at a time. And that model is a model for the future of how you innovate science. And that's what we've been able to do. And that's why Paragon's been so successful. I am more excited today about where science is going than ever before. I think technology for the last 40 years, which was electrical engineering combined with computational science, the next 40 years is about biology combined with genomics, computational science, and we're going to see really big changes. And Paragon's been able to be a big part of that with developing medicine, use biology-based fuels, biology-based energies, biology-based solutions to our environment. So that's really what we're doing at Paragon, and we're very excited about this model and where things are going.
I don't want to stop without talking about Matter, because that's your philanthropic effort. You started this organization, this nonprofit called Matter. It's turned into Chicago's preeminent life sciences startup hub. What drove you to found it, and what kind of impact do you think it's had?
Well, thank you for bringing it up. One of the, we've been very successful in Chicago and fortunate to have such great support by the community, great researchers, great universities. And I know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, especially in life sciences, where typically you're older because you have more degrees, more training, but you need so many different pieces. You need a community. You need legal, you need medical writers, you need scientists, you need the business side, you need all these components, much harder than in tech where, you could do it with a computer in somebody's Starbucks. So we needed to build that community to help these entrepreneurs build these companies. And that's what we did at Matter. And we've had enormous success with hundreds of companies and helping them get that start, training them, giving them the resources. So not only did I start this, but the city, the state all got involved, and it's been a great success. Now we're being asked to do it in other states around the country because people realize helping these entrepreneurs build companies is good for building jobs, advancing science, getting research out of universities and building it. So it's been a real passion of mine, and I'm really pleased to what we've been able to do.
We need to bottle your energy. Maybe that's a startup you could think about. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk, Jeff. It's just a pleasure to have you in the Midwest building companies. It'll help the whole region, I think.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for all you do to help entrepreneurs and do this.
You can read more about this story and find links to resources by visiting WUWM.com. You can also explore episodes of How Did You Do That at WUWM.com, at the iTunes Store, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can explore more from How Did You Do That at WUWM.com, including how one Milwaukeean grew his own construction company and a conversation with Craig Culver about what it was like to build the famous chain of restaurants.